Welcome back, everyone, to the Cancel for Maintenance podcast. If this is your first time joining us, we are a show that takes a behind-the-scenes look into the gritty, non-glamorous life of aircraft maintenance. We share some laughs, impart some wisdom, all in hopes to give you that split seconds relief in your day that can help prevent mishaps. I am your co-host, Six.
I'm MVP.
And our third host, Shoreline, is silently in the back, twisting knobs, pushing buttons, making sure our audio is good to go and our faces stay fit for radio. Today, we had a pretty good sidebar conversation about this prior to the episode. We're talking about a couple of bean counter-like subjects and how our maintenance actions can affect those topics, and vice versa, how these bean counter topics can affect maintenance actions. So you may have heard us talk about this throughout all the episodes we've had, and that's on-time performance or punctuality, right? Punctuality in the aviation industry, and I'm sure a whole lot of service industries, is crucial. For us, that punctuality drives this huge metric called on-time performance. So a little backstory on this. On-time performance leads into a whole slew of things, like efficient work planning. It influences how skilled your workforce is.
Right, I was going to say staffing. Make sure you have the appropriate skill level staff.
That's it, and also it determines like if we as the service or the producer is meeting the goals of the customer, whoever that is, right? And that usually takes the form of on-time flights, on-time departures, on-time arrivals, all sorts of things like that. You may see this mostly in the commercial realm, but it exists in almost every corner of aviation. Because if we're not getting the stuff we need on time, a lot of things fall out of place, right? Especially if you're talking commercial or military. If things don't hit the schedule exactly as the time hack needs it, things get real messy. And especially if you're if we're talking commercial or military, because people need that plane and on-time flights mean money. So what sort of things influence on-time flights or on-time performance, right? So again, this is a measurement of how well your planning and your maintenance executions make things happen, right? Or how is that metric of how good your performance is. And first things first is that efficient work planning. If you don't have a plan to gauge how much work you need or how much resources you need to get something done, you've already fucked up. You've already fucked up. And planning can be as basic as like how many people do I need for a job? How many flights do I need to have done for the day? Or what sort of equipment do I need to have staged and ready, or at least serviceable to get those flights ready to go, or to have them executed properly. And MVP kind of said it already with the skilled workforce. That in itself is a whole other rabbit hole. Because we were having a conversation about that before the episode started, about just like how having a skilled workforce can pretty much make or break your on-time performance.
Yeah, and then accountability of that workforce as well.
Yes,
well, we can dive. We'll touch more on that as we progress through some of these topics here.
Right. And so before we dive into the workforce, another factor that helps out with on-time performance is having a reliable supply chain. And that's a whole other episode in of itself. But more or less what we mean by the supply chain is like it's kind of like that pull system where if we need something, we push it, we put an order, it gets put out to whoever the vendor or supplier is, whether it be internal or external. It comes to us. We do the job to get it done going. It's something along those.
And I was going to touch on the supply chain. As we know, during the COVID times, right, we were back ordered on parts forever, or more specifically, hazardous materials we would use, right? Some form of liquid coating or some type of specialty grease, high temp grease, or anything like that. Like, you know, it was made in small batches anyways, and by one sole vendor.
Mm-hmm.
But multiple aircraft use it. But when the pandemic hit, they took their small workforce and sent them all home. and the stocks were depleted pretty rapidly. So 6 to 8 months back order waiting on that specialty material you needed. It just slows everything way down.
Yep, very much so. And then another one is, it's the more up and coming thing, is advanced tools and technologies. And this in itself can mean a whole lot of stuff, like having the aircraft have better diagnostic systems, having better tools to diagnose the aircraft itself, predict maintenance, for what we can talk about smartly. And
right, or robotics in a production manufacturing facility, so you get accurate holes drilled in the airframe you're building each and every time,
right,
trying to eliminate that human error.
Right. Or another one is like CMM, right? That cloud-based machining, where like every bit and piece of that aircraft or that part has a virtual duplicate in cyberspace, and then you can analyze down to the like small, like the subatomic level almost, of how out of tolerance something can be. And for the most part, some things don't need to be that tight of a tolerance, but some things do, right? Case in point, again, is with the commercial and aviation and military side, where like tolerance have to be manufactured in a way that can constantly take a beating because of the amount of flights or the amount of operations they do. And another big one,
the stresses they experience.
Yes.
Heat and temperature changes, all that stuff.
Yes. And another big one is that continuous improvement process. We say this a lot, but any organization that's worth their salt will have some type of continuous improvement process, division, department, policy, and so forth. Because I'll give again the commercial line, for example. Like, if we're having a consistent flow of unsatisfied customers because of delayed flights or delayed departures, arrivals, and we just continue to march on like nothing's wrong, you'll be out of business real fast.
Well, yeah, and you'll find even that a continuous improvement plan actually might be mandated by the customer, right? You actually might have to have one in place and then show on a quarterly basis what you've identified and what you're doing to an area that needs to be improved and what you're doing to improve it, right? And you have to show progress on those. That is part of a contract requirement, that the customer does want to see what you're doing to make your area better, so that they get a better product in the end.
Yes, and again, like say, like for the average person, I'll give again commercial. Say like they give like those surveys or those like feedback reports that they sometimes give you through whatever avenue you used to purchase your ticket. Say, how was your experience? How was the flight? How was the process chain of you buying a ticket to you getting put in the seat? Like, most people ignore it. Some people, or they only give the 1-star reviews, and those matter. As sad as some of them may use them, right? It matters. Mm-hmm. And so why does all of on-time performance matter? Again, it goes back to that quality assurance piece, where like we're making sure that everything we're doing is being done right per regulatory and customer requirements, whatever those regulatory or customers are. It drives flight critical actions. Again, like, do we have the right resources to do the job? Do we have the right skilled workforce to do the job? Or where are we lacking? Do we have manuals? Do we have checklists? All sorts of stuff. All kinds of stuff can spoke out or branch out from just this one metric. And in some cases, like, this is how people lose their job. This on-time performance. So,
if you have continually bad numbers or bad results or bad feedback, like Six was talking about, you're not going to be there very long. Think of it like a college or NFL football coach, right? Mm-hmm. Enough bad seasons in a row, and they find somebody else to lead the charge.
Yes. Right. Or like, say I'll give the sports one example. Like, say like you're a player on the field and you're consistently not producing whatever we would expect of that player. You're going to be riding the bench quite a lot.
or be traded, right?
Yeah. Right.
Be traded away. Not even going to sit on that bench anymore. Like, we don't, you're doing bad enough that we don't even want you to be here.
Yes. It's like, you're a bad representation of the team, man. So I think you ought to find better pastures somewhere else. Right. And so we kind of talked about like how that affect, like what on-time performance drives. We mentioned earlier how on-time performance can drive maintenance. Right. And we say that in such a way because, again, like on-time performance, punctuality, all that stuff is very critical. And so what that translates to maintenance is where things kind of get a little sketchy because, again, since on time means everything, whatever you do contributes to that on time, whether it be by the book or whatever. We just kind of leave that that speculation open. And the reason why we say that is because we've again, I've made so many comments about this that people only see the end goal and they kind of don't care how they get there. And
now I'll use an example for the maintenance side, right? And no matter what you do, right? So if you have say you're in the commercial side, and you have an aircraft come down and it's got a weekly check due or a daily check that's required in between flights. So you tell control, hey, I need to schedule this daily, and control is going to go, how long does the daily check take you? Oh, I can get it done in an hour. Let's just say a daily is like lights, fluids, and pressures type thing. Pretty basic. Just throw some switches, check some levels or gauges, and service is necessary. I can get that done on this particular airframe in an hour. Okay, but you're going to be held to that hour. So if you can't maintain it in that hour, the delay for the next revenue flight will be then imposed on maintenance. Delay, why? And so when corporate looks at that, right, and says, well, our numbers are down because we keep having these maintenance delays. What's going on? Oh, well, it's all because maintenance says they can do it in an hour, but it's religiously taking them 2. So we've then had to move our schedule back by 1 hour, which has caused people to either cancel flights, reschedule flights, whatever.
Yep. Or another example is, or let me backtrack a little bit. Like on-time performance on on-time flights and on-time criticalities, it can be one of the leading contributors to the most common mistakes that happen in maintenance or that cause bad maintenance. Right. Example is equipment failure. If we're having to keep say we're in a very busy airport or we're in a very busy organization and we're constantly just cranking out flights, constantly in and out. And say the support equipment that we use to service these planes, if they don't have enough downtime to maintain those support equipment or at least do the daily routines that they require, they will fail, and then they will break, and then.
Well, that's actually a very good point. You brought up support equipment. That's aviation maintenance is rarely talked about, but here's something that's talked about even less. The ground equipment, the age group, right? Support equipment guys, service with your oil servicing carts and your nitrogen carts and your hydro, whatever, lifts, jacks, tugs, all that stuff. They're talked about even less.
Yeah,
but that's exactly right. Yeah. Hey, I need to go service this fluid. Well, if my engine oil servicing cart, the pump isn't working, and we have 3 carts, and the other 2 are sitting in the background, broke with red tags on them as well. We're up shit creek without a paddle.
Yeah, and so like having that constant churn in, churn out, and whatnot, that would cause fatigue. That would cause premature wear, and let's face it, there's been a lot of safety or hasty, unsafe fixes on support equipment. Let's just say that, right? I see it a lot with jacks, like hydraulic jacks. I see it also with tugs. A case in point was that one we talked about some episodes ago about using a pair of pliers.
I learned they actually finally retired that thing.
Finally
retired it and got a suitable newer used replacement.
Newer used.
Yeah.
But at least it's not a pair of pliers that's acting as the gas pedal,
Not yet.
Not yet. But that's exactly what I mean, right? They don't see that on-time performance kind of puts the horse blinders on, and they say like, well, I don't care how you did it, just get it there. And it's been working thus far. So until something really hits the fan, then press on, which again, that can lead to a whole slew of unsafe conditions. And our example with the tug with the pair of pliers as a gas pedal is very much unsafe. I think the biggest one that will contribute to unsafe maintenance because of these on-time metrics is violations, like human factor stuff, like violations, slips, lapses, mistakes, omissions. The list goes on, right? But let's talk a little bit about that. So with the violations, the slips and whatnot, what you kind of look at it as like, nobody violates rules in aviation. That'd be freaking asinine. That's people's lives.
That's blasphemous.
That's heresy right there, right? Yeah. Full-fledged heresy. And again, I'm gonna say, like, because on time means everything, a lot of individuals have the horse blinders on, or they have that tunnel vision, and they only see the end result. They kind of don't care all too much on how they get there. So, like, say with the violations, they would skip steps altogether to save time. MVP's example was doing that post-flight check to go for, or a daily check to do another flight. If say for instance the manual says that it requires 2 people to do an inspection, ETOPS for instance, it takes 2 people, one to do either side, and they cannot switch. It's like, well, we don't have exactly 2 people, so what we'll do is one person will do the whole thing, and then they'll find another guy to sign off the second piece, right? That's a clear and present violation right there. Or they would install life limited fasteners because it saves time, or we don't have the time to wait for replacements. It hasn't shown signs of failure yet, so why not? We've seen it happen a whole slew of times. Or
yeah. Why fix it if it hasn't broke yet? Well, the key word's yet, but it's coming.
Yeah.
You know.
And there's a reason why we have safety limits for a reason, or even operating limits. if you want to give that story about the safety wire we had just prior to the episode.
Yeah. Okay. So for a little story time for all of you, this has happened today. So out there, you know, inspecting, looking over on the floor and such, and you're looking at the manual and you see a job signed off already, and you're like, that's interesting, because I can see that person actively doing that job right now. Okay, well, they're a newer person. Let me walk over. Hey, why'd you sign off the job when you're not done yet? Oh, well, I signed it off because I thought you signed it off and then you go do the job. No, I don't know why you would think that. Even at this point in your career, yes, you're new, but you're not so new to aviation that that's a valid excuse. Anyways, moving forward, don't sign off your work until it's done. So what are you working on? Let me look at it here. Oh, your safety wire is backwards. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Okay, well, we're going to overlook the maintenance manual side, or the aircraft form side of things, and we'll claim that as you're new, but you've been trained and taught the right way to do it now. But we are going to fail this safety wire that you called us over to inspect. All right, so right to fail. What do? We get a response from maintenance management that says, hey, I'd like to discuss this fail. I don't think it's a fail. Why? Well, the maintenance manual doesn't tell me how to safety wire. It just says to install safety wire. Yes, that's correct. Right. So because of that, there's nothing telling the guys how they should safety wire. Well, okay, what about the 4313? What about the ISOs? What about the other industry standard documents out there? There's a slew of them. Oh, well, see, but we only work to these manuals. Yes, but the manuals don't go into that depth because these procedures exist over here. Otherwise, the maintenance manuals would be 4,000 pages long. It'd just be too cumbersome. And so they say, well, I don't think the fail should occur on the actual person performing the job. I think the fail should be written against the maintenance manuals. You want me to fail the maintenance manual for being inadequate? No, that's not how that works. So they said, well, I think better training. Well, okay, who do you think that should be coming from? Thinking that they were going to say themselves, right? Oh, well, that should be the training group. Interesting, cool. Let's loop them in. Hey, training, do you feel that you should be teaching safety wire? And they responded with like 5 different procedures, standards, and contracts that they're not required to do that, which I knew. But hey, adding weight to the argument. So then we come back. We're like, all right, now what else you got? Well, we're still going to stand by our statement. That this isn't the case. Okay, so I'll yield to you. You found a flaw in the maintenance manual where it could be better. I will get rid of the fail. Just show me where you've submitted the change request that the maintenance manual be updated, and that fail goes away. We don't have that. Oh, why not? Well, because we just kind of know it's a problem. So you knew you were working to inadequate procedure and did nothing about it? Interesting. Okay, let's open that can a little further. Who was the person doing the job? Oh, well, it was so-and-so. Oh, then I think we need to discuss decertifying that person and then putting them back through the decert recertification process, which is pretty lengthy. And they were like, whoa, wait a minute. That's a whole lot of extra paperwork and this, that, and the other. Yeah, it is. But you wanted to go this route. So here we are. All you need to do is go out there and smack them on the back of the head and say, are you kidding me? Do it this way and quit signing off your crap before you do it. It's just like, but the sad part is we, at least for Six and I, we think that that's standard knowledge, right? That's kind of day one stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You would have learned in your A&P school or in your what's the military call it, tech school, or I don't know, just in general experience in the industry,
right? I
guess it blows my mind that, because anywhere else, if that was on a FAA or EOS at aircraft, you would be hung out to dry.
Yeah,
It's just. But for some reason in the area I work, it's seen as acceptable. I was laughing about it earlier before we started recording, but laughing because of how sad it is.
Yeah,
it just blows my mind that's seen as acceptable. And here's the caveat, right? It's people like that make the rest of us look terrible.
Yes, and for all of our certified A&Ps out there, you would know, right, that as part of your duties, as far as signing and releasing an aircraft or any type of maintenance action, it's understood that there's a saying in there. It's called common tools and practices, right? There's a reason it's in there, because we don't have the time to record every single bit of knowledge that you're supposed to know. That's why we gave you the certification to begin with, because you've already accomplished that, right? That should be standard procedure. Now, the only argument I could see for something like that, for instance, is like, no, hold up. It's correct because it's threaded in the opposite direction. You just, I can take it off and show it to you if you want, but it's threaded this way.
Right. Even showing, it's hey, we're doing it this way. It's actually a left-hand thread here. Let me show you the manual. The manual calls it out. And if you don't believe that, I can pull the screw out, show you it's left-hand thread, retorque it, whatever you want to do, right? But you would only go to those lengths to prove your case as to why you're right.
Mm-hmm.
But they went to the same lengths to try to justify ignorance. And And my God, ignorance it was.
Yes. And then this is one of those big examples, like when on time or operational on time performance, it means more to some people than it should. Right. And for those of us who've been in the industry long enough as both the technician and as some kind of scheduler, planner, or controller, or pro super in some instances, like on time is great, but it's not worth the risk if it's not done right. You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got to look at the risk to reward, the cost benefit, whatever analogy you want to use there. But like you said, okay, we got it on time, but we only put it together with 2 out of 5 bolts because we didn't have time to wait for the other ones. Well, does the manual say you can operate with only 2 out of 5? Then no. So why are we putting known bad, allowing known bad work to be done, and then putting a potentially unsafe situation at 30,000 feet in the air? You know, like it's maddening. So like Six said, getting it on time, but not at the sake of loss of quality of work.
Yeah. Or safety. Yeah. Like,
or safety,
yeah. And that's kind of where it goes into like the omissions piece where like people skip steps because they feel by their experience or tribal knowledge that this will save time. And we've seen many examples like this, like again, with the safety wire as one just now example, or using life limited fasteners more than once, or putting the wrong fasteners into stuff. I've heard like different cases from commercial guys where they say like some individuals put the wrong bolts into a windscreen, and then as the plane is taxiing by, it has a little bit of air pressure, it pops out of the freaking out of the cabin, or it pops off the cockpit. And like, what? So imagine that, like you're feeling you're on time, you're feeling everything's great, and because of a simple omission of procedures, or I know better than what the publication is telling me procedure, and then the plane goes to pick up just even 10 feet of altitude, and then here comes the windscreen come popping off the airplane. So now they got to figure a way to land without causing too much issue, and then having to taxi on by, like, oh yeah, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to cancel your flight because the windscreen popped off the freaking nose of the plane. So here you are thinking, celebrating, everything's good and gravy, and then now we're having a return flight because of X, Y, and Z. If in our brains, it's not worth the risk. Like as cool as we want on-time performance to be good to go, it should not be at the cost of quality or safety. Like,
right, we all want that metric to look good for us, right? Man,
mm-hmm.
Six does this, does this job, and he gets it done so fast and well and all that and every time. But we know things happen, right? We mentioned supply chain earlier. Oh, I need to replace these bolts. Oh, hey, supply, can you give these? Oh, we're actually out of stock on those, and everything's back ordered by 30 days. Oh, well, these are one-time use hardware, but I guess I'll throw them in again. Like, Now, let me be a little bit on the real here. Now, if they're not really totally mangled bolts or whatever else, the chances of them failing again are probably pretty slim. But it also depends on where they are, right? If they're
yes.
on a flight control that's experiencing numerous stresses and G's hour by hour during a flight, multiple times a day, maybe not. Or maybe something that's like on a landing gear that's taking a beating every time it hits the ground. Maybe not, but it's a screw for a chair in the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably be okay.
Yeah. Right.
Like this is us being, oh, you're saying to reuse hardware that we're not supposed to? Yes, but also we're very real to the actual situations of what goes on. So what I'm saying is that you're going, as a professional, going to use your best judgment and go, oh, this is a very low stress, non-flight critical area. I think I'm safe.
Yeah. or if it's again, non-flight critical. That's the big one, right? And there's all sorts of lists and manuals and what's okay if it's non-functioning or it's halfway functioning, right? Whatever organization you're a part of that calls it
part
that.
of the minimum equipment list or something where there's tolerances that say, hey, you can operate with, like I was talking earlier, you can operate with 2 out of 5 bolts, or actually the limit would probably be 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5. But but again, that's only going to be for a non flight critical area.
Right. Or say if it is on a flight.
No loss of performance by operating in that condition. Right.
Yes. And if it's ever questionable, use your best judgment, talk to an engineer if there's one available, like, hey, we have this problem, do your wizard math and tell me if it's good or bad, always have some kind of way to back that up. Right. There's many different ways to slice this cake. And honestly, like, we don't, like, your situation varies, but all in all, like, if you're having to have to make that decision and you're being pressured to make those decisions quick, that's when you got to pump the brakes. Like, okay, man. Like, I get it. On time is great, but it's not on time for the record. It's not gonna be worth it if this plane has to come back.
On time or alive? Which way do you want it?
Yeah, and that's some of the stuff that we actually have to tell people, whoever is in charge making these decisions. Like, it's either we do this right and be delayed by X amount of minutes, hours, whatever, or we can say fuck safety and put it in the air, and then we're having even bigger issues.
Yeah, but the whole time that thing's in the air, you're going to be sweating, checking your flight aware app, making sure that thing is going and getting where it needs to be safely.
Yes. Right. Or you'll run into the situations where top level individuals would say, ominous dominus, you now have the authority to do this. And it's been a minute since you've done that, or you've never done it before, but all of a sudden, like, some top level official is telling you, like, you have the authority now, you go do this. That's a huge red flag right there, all for the sake of on time. So ways.
Yeah, you go ahead and write me a waiver. It says if any negative fallout exempts me from any repercustions from said fallout from your decision.
Right. Or you sign it off, right? I'll do the inspection, fine. But you sign it off.
Come out and do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you get your ass out here and do it.
Right. And that's that point, right, when you make this anonymous tip to the NTSB or whoever the regulatory authority is in your area. Like, hey, Yasa, have I got some news story for you?
If you happen to be in this area on this ramp and around this tail number, I don't know why, just nothing specific, just throwing out random airport location and tail number. Yeah. I'd go ahead and swing by if I were you.
Yeah,
definitely not working on a hydro pump on the left engine.
Right. And sadly, sometimes I've some mechanics or technicians do have to pull some stuff like that. Like, hey, Mr. FAA, NTSB, EASA, or whoever, have I got a story for you? So what are ways that we can do to actively combat this or significantly reduce this kind of mindset? First of all is proper planning. And that's across the board from everybody. And some technicians, they really don't get too deep into planning because they just they shut up and color for the most part, or whatever their dispatch or crew chief or whoever's their lead tech says, you know what, do this. No one really has an argument about it. But if a lead or a tech or even a top level individual says, hey, I want this 1 hour inspection done in 20 minutes. And it's historically never taken no less than 30 minutes or more. Like, don't know, man. That sounds kind of wrong. That sounds pretty shady. Right. But having that proper planning, it ensures like you have the skilled workforce available. It ensures you have the proper resources available. You have the time scheduled to do it. And then we can truck along. And you also got to account for any type of slip ups too. Like, say you needed some type of support equipment, but it's just barely coming out of its preventative maintenance schedule, or it has to be delivered from point X to point Y or something like that. You know what I mean? Travel.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of places they have daily checks, right? Mm-hmm. Or pre-use inspections. So make sure those pre-use inspections are being filled out. And then if you actually find an anomaly with something, write it on the component card or the piece of equipment's, usage form. And then also annotate the appropriate party who's going to fix it or who needs to fix it. So should they be coming around and checking all their equipment? Sure. But let's be real, on a large airport, there's tons of things to do at all times. So the chances of them coming over to gate 5 when they're on the other side of the airfield trying to fix the tug with the vice grips for the throttle, just notify them, hey guys, just want to let you know this is over here. Or if you have the time, drop it off at the shop, right? Help each other out. But, you got to use those, you gotta inspect your equipment. But then to tie in with your planning aspect, if you got some sort of phase maintenance coming up or some sort of line check or whatever else, and you're seasoned enough, and even if you're not, look over the manual. What does it tell you got to replace at that time? Well, if you know that bird is flying today, but when it lands tonight, it's going to be do that. Or when it lands tomorrow, it's going to be do some type of maintenance. Start putting those parts on order.
Yes.
Don't wait till it lands and then, hey, now I got to order the parts. Well, now we're going to be sitting around for an hour, 2 hours until they get delivered. No, you need to have that. They need to be sitting there in the shop when that thing gets towed in.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Right. And that kind of goes into what we were saying at the very beginning with that risk-based assessment, right? If you know something is trending in that direction, that it's going to be late or it's going to take this amount of time or whatever the case may be, factor that into your thought process. We know these tire changes don't take more than 30 minutes. We know that this GSC is always going to show up late, or we know one of the fuel trucks that's going to service us is going to come back with a dirty sample, some shit, right? If you're not actively thinking about stuff like that, or at least accounting for it, it's going to hit you in the face every single time. And to just flat out be ignorant to it or feign ignorance is not going to get you off the hook. Ask us how we know. Another one is for the human factor side of the house, with the omissions, the mistakes, and the violations and so forth. It's such a blanket statement for me to say this, but relevant training, right? And I say relevant as the key word here is relevant training, because there's many classes we've been to where they just data dump all sorts of training classes. And it sounds cool, but how is this relevant to what I'm doing, right? Teaching a line technician about Six Sigma is not going to help him out too much. If anything, it's just going to explode his brain. What the hell just happened? Right? Or telling a engineer how to read contracts, or how to do the business side of the house as far as contracts. Cool story, but what is that really? Where do I factor in for this? Oh, it's just good to know. Cool. Just give it to me in a check sheet or a flow chart or some shit, something quick and simple. Should I have to reference it in any way, shape, or form? Right. Or with the publications, for instance, if you know that your maintenance requires a huge slew of publications, maybe not have it in paper form, maybe have it in a on a laptop, or have a checklist that references the manuals, right? Kind of a go, no go checklist. If red, refer to this section, or if good, press on with life, something, right? I'm pretty sure commercial airliners do that too, where they know they break down their maintenance into certain task cards, so it's not so cumbersome for them to lug around scores of manuals, or having to have a laptop fully charged just in case. That's just more FOD to be found somewhere else. Another one is internal and external audits. Okay, this kind of goes into MVP and myself's realm. Is with the internal and external audits. You don't necessarily have to be quality assurance to perform an internal audit on your shop. It's actually a good thing.
Yeah, I wish you would. I call those preventative action plans.
Yeah.
What a novel concept.
Say it ain't so, right? And it doesn't matter your skill level to do an internal audit. It can just literally be like you guys, like, you know what? I want to take a look at how we do X, Y, and Z on this shift. Just grab the manual or grab whatever policy that dictates that procedure be done and walk it through. That's literally it. Like,
I dream of the day where somebody comes up and says, "Hey, we were looking over our couple of processes here, and we think we found some flaws, but we'd like to confirm them with you guys." Oh my God, am I real? What's happening?
Am I dreaming? What's up here? Now, we do understand, like, there's some corners of aviation that's not a huge deal, or it's just so lagging that they just kind of learn to figure it out themselves. We get it, right? Especially with general aviation, where a lot of publications or a lot of procedures are very vague, and it's kind of that way for a reason. But that doesn't stop you from having some kind of internal process, to kind of like standardize it to a point where, like, to kind of bridge the knowledge gap. Because sometimes you will find individuals in general aviation who are very new to the scene, and they kind of don't figure things out until a mistake happens. And it's usually not somewhere far away where they figure that out. They hardly read safety grams, let's say that much. Or if there's even safety grams to have. But having some kind of internal check procedure or some kind of internal check policy, even if it's just yourself, please do that. And what this does is it gives insight to where our gaps are. It gives insight to how well we're actually meeting those demands and how we can do them better, right? And as MVP said, we found some gaps here, we found some issues over here. What is this true, or is there a way we can actually fix this, right? And then start that chain of events. How effective that's going to be at that point, it's up in the air. But you've identified it. So if someone comes trying to smash you for X, Y, and Z, like, no, we've addressed this, we've talked about this, and we've went through the process of having you do it. Whether you got the memo or not is a whole different story. But don't be trying to come at us all foul, because we've identified it, we've told you about it, and it's up to you now to act on it. So, and that's another one of those CYA things, is if doing those internal or external audits. Externals are kind of, it's going to be a decent slap in the face when it's external, because usually when it's external, that means like some kind of regulatory official is going to be coming through or someone's certification is going to be up for grabs. And typically external audits means like you've done something to the effect that warrants them having to be there. It's hardly a scheduled thing. And when it is a scheduled, it's more like a routine check kind of thing.
Yep,
but,
definitely.
But those are definitely one of the big ones. We highly recommend you guys do your own type of internal check procedure, something like that, right? Even if it's just like, again, it's something as simple as like grabbing a check, one of your procedure checklists, or grabbing one of your manuals and then just walking it step by step. Does it cost a lot of money and time? Sure. Or you can just like, whenever that...
but back to that cost benefit analysis, does it cost time and money? Yes, but what is the time and money that's going to be spent should whatever discrepancy come to fruition?
Yes.
Right? Whatever flaw in the process, whatever error that's there that you don't see now and might not catch had you not do this internal audit.
Mm-hmm.
If that, I'm going to say, risk comes to fruition, what is the cost then?
Yes.
Well, I can talk forever on risk, issue, and opportunity management. I spent majority of my day working through a lot of those on several contracts.
Yep. And again, like there's no skill level required to really try this. I mean, there is, but at the same time, like you as a certified technician, you already have a good chunk of that, right? There may be some hiccups into how to perform a checklist or what exactly you're looking for, how deep into the weeds you need to go about it. Sure, right? But as far as like yourself, just doing your common practices, it shouldn't be too hard of a thing, especially if you're just going step by step by whatever manual or procedure. check out tools. Okay, cool. Let's go check out some tools. Where do I got to go? Right? How reliable are those tool checkout procedures, or how reliable are those tools that you need to check out? Is it coming due for calibration? Is it broken? Is it kind of hodgepodge together with super glue? What the fuck?
I watched the tool crib attendant juggle 12 torque wrenches, and albeit impressive, he did drop all of them in the process. So, and then just proceeded to try to check them out as if nothing had happened. Like, mm-hmm. That's a flaw in the process right there.
Yeah.
Why is he juggling torque wrenches?
Yeah, stuff like that. Or like, say, like you go to like step one, check out GSC, and you see a freaking puddle of hydraulic fluid underneath the freaking piece of gear. Like, yeah, it's probably not a good thing.
That's a big one. Oh my God. Went through this a few months back with an engine hoist. Well, like, then all of a sudden it just lost pressure, and as they were trying to install, and the whole thing slammed down. Thankfully, nobody got hurt. Nothing was really damaged. But we're like, whoa, let's impound this thing. We come to find out, well, we saw a bunch of fluid under it before we went to use it, but we just decided to use it anyways. Why didn't you notify the people to fix it? Let me just check the component card. You didn't even write it up that there was a flaw. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, we can spool our control just on that alone. But again, like just walking through the steps, like that's one added factor to go into this. We're kind of going off on a huge rabbit hole with this, but just doing even those little things will contribute greatly. You may not feel that way, but it will contribute greatly to that on-time metric, right? Now, and this will actually give like a realistic on-time metric. Let's
I guess you could call that earned value management too.
Yes. Right. Because like say like a customer is very zealous, or you got a top management official that's very zealous. Like, I want my flights to be no more than 10 minutes from the gate to be considered on time. It's like, oh, okay, man, that's pretty bold of you. But for a fact that the planes take at least like an hour and 30 minutes plus to get fully ready and out the door. Well, this person says, like, well, I want it done in 45 minutes. Like, okay, unless you got some super cool metric on how we're going to do that, it's probably not going to happen. And you've consistently proved that, like
magic to the tool crib.
Some Hogwarts shit, man. Ravenclaw.
I've seen a wand in my tool bag, but all right.
Right? Or you have like some superheroes, like legit superheroes that can like zoom from one end of the field to the other in less than a second. But those kind of things like actually drive the bean counters, right? So like if you know that through trend and consistency that you guys can get a plane safely out the door in X amount of time, and they're projecting a totally different time scale than you are, maybe it's time they have to readjust. And that's actually a management requirement to review those processes and making sure that what they put on paper is actually going to work, right? Because we're going into some nerdy shit with the quality assurance piece, but if their process capability is not jiving with what's actually going down, or I'm sorry, if their process capability prediction is not jiving with what's actually happening on the line, it's either they gotta get a rude awakening and readjust, or what majority of them are going to do is they're going to try to force fuck you into that tiny metric that they feel is the best way to go. And that's where we see a lot of the frustrations. Like, we have to work harder, work more with less, or cut corners. They don't say cut corners. They just,
well, you did it before. You should be able to do it again.
Yes.
The one time Hail Mary pass we threw and the planets aligned and we made it happen doesn't become the new standard.
Yes.
We need to adjust things to make it more of a here's what we need to do to make that a repeatable metric. Yes. Well, you did it before. Yeah, but holy cow, you didn't see all the jumping through of hoops that we did to make that work. That's not sustainable, and it shouldn't be expected to be sustainable. So, but you are going to run into that. Yep. You're going to hit those Hail Marys every once in a while. They're going to go, great, that's the new standard. Shut up.
Yeah. Right. Like, we had all-star players. It was a great day. Everyone had their coffee kicking at just the right amount of time. they listened to their favorite TV show on the way in, or they had their solid breakfast or some shit. Everyone was on like their A++ game that day, and don't expect that to be an all the time thing, right? But then they'll come back and say like, well, I really feel like you're really downplaying your skills here. Like, I think you guys are overestimating.
No, what I'm downplaying is the terrible process.
Yes.
That's what I'm downplaying. But let me upplay that a little bit.
Right.
Let me scream it so the people in the back can hear it.
Right. Say it louder for the people in the back. But absolutely true. We can spool off so much on just either of these. But again, like what you guys do affects the on-time performance and vice versa. Like people's perception or anticipation for this on-time delivery, on-time service metric will affect you in one way, shape, or form. And we see it time and again where like there will be many occasions where their failure of X, Y, and Z will constitute some form of an emergency on your part, which may turn into some real shady shit, which at that point you should probably be throwing up all sorts of red flags and possibly making an anonymous call to X, Y, and Z regulatory service, like we just jokingly alluded to earlier. Any final thoughts at all on this or anything else, MVP?
I'd like to hear from some of you guys out there what you've run into with your, now we've talked about these primary issues in aviation maintenance. Kind of, what are you guys noticing in your areas? We kind of talked about what we witnessed in ours a little bit, albeit barely scratching the surface on it. But what do you guys experience in your day-to-day realms? We've talked about commercial, we talked about military side, but are you guys having similar things that you're seeing, or you got something totally different you haven't seen, or you've seen that we haven't? Mm-hmm. I'd be interested to see.
Most definitely. And we definitely want to hear all that kind of stuff, because hearing that kind of feedback, in some areas may not relate as greatly as others, but hearing that piece of the puzzle is another way of thinking outside the box and say, hey, that's a great idea. Why don't we do something like that here? Or how do we mold this to make it work for us here?
Yeah. And if you've performed some type of internal audit on yourselves and your operations, within your own mechanics group or whatever you're in, what issues did you find and what did you do to fix them? I'd be really interested to hear that, because I think that would be great to broadcast out to the masses. Hey, look, so-and-so over here found the wheels falling off of component B, and they redesigned the axles and installed lock nuts to ensure wheels stay installed on the component. Stupid example, but still, it's just stuff like that. I think that'd be really interesting.
Absolutely. And whichever is the easiest way to reach us, like either through emails, our website, our social medias, our link tree. The best way is on Patreon via Discord. We're always having some type of conversation about that. But again, let us know what you think, and let us know like what some of the topics you guys have seen, some of the actions you guys took, and the other things that MVP has mentioned. Please let us know. Like if this is, it may not sound relevant, but if you hear it enough times and it becomes a trend and something else, that might be an indication that we as a whole should be diving into this, right? It may not be 100% applicable, but it may be of good help. So again,
or at least get somebody else started in the right area.
Yes.
Resolving their own issues.
Exactly that. Yes. Again, like hit us up in whichever way is easiest for you, website, our emails, our Discord for that matter, whichever way is the best way for you. And on that note, we thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you all again on the next one. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
We would like to take this time to thank our patrons for supporting our show and allowing us to make episodes, maintain our gear, and create merch for all of our listeners. With special thanks to Erica Lamont, Chris Hawkins, Eric Shaw, Dan Schubert, Ryan Frushauer, Kyle Keir, Mike Sherwood, Caleb Stockhill, and Jennifer Brofer. Thank you all so much for your support and patronage. If you like our show, please support us on Patreon. You'll receive awesome perks like access to our private Discord, discounts and early access to our merch, first glimpse of our comics and other projects, and so much more. You can further support us and show off your prowess as an aircraft specialist by visiting our shop at cancelformaintenance.com. If you like classy or rugged watches, visit our affiliate Rockwell Time at rockwelltime.com. Use the code CX4MX to save 10% off your total order. If you have suggestions for the show or you'd like to be a guest on the show, send us a line on our contact us section at cancelformaintenance.com, and we'll do what we can to get both your ideas and yourself on the show. Please support us on social media like Facebook at Cancel for Maintenance, Instagram at CANX for Maintenance Podcast, or Twitter at CXMX Podcast. Please check out our new comic series on the Tapas app. Like, share, subscribe, and comment on our comics. Let us know what you think. Thank you all so much for your support and listenership, and we will catch you all next time.